Coming to you from the comfort of our homes is the internet's biggest night, and it all starts in 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the first annual webinar for drug rehab. And by drug rehab, I mean our addiction to social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you know the works. Now, my name is YAKEEM REID, and I will be your host. So if you're here today on your neighbor's Wi-Fi, please go nearer to the host because you do not want to miss this. Now, this is the first annual TubaFest webinar, the online experience where influencers influence future influencers. Now, I know that little slogan kinda doesn't really make any sense, but don't blame me. Blame the persons in the writer's room. Now, I first want to thank our amazing team for making this happen. There's RHOOMES, our publicist. He's the guy who's pretty much in charge of our social media platforms and the guy behind the logo branding and the creative concept, DELANO FRANKSON. Now, had we not been in a pandemic, this probably would have been a live audience. However, Corona pulled the strings on that production, so we have to make it virtual. Now, I said this to say there are so many editing tricks and computer magic that's going on right now that you may not even realize it until it's probably too late. I can take you anywhere from the comfort of your home to Parliament and probably to the inside of an office. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very exciting lineup. There is YouTube sensation Dayna Samantha. We also have internet personality Khalia Talks and stylist and image consultant Kevaun Merchant. Boss lady entrepreneur and CEO of LivTreatsJa, Amoy Cameron is also here. And last but definitely not least, media and marketing manager Christopher Matthews. And we can't forget our amazing and generous sponsors, the intentionally aiming for more program I Am, who will give away 5 planners to 5 lucky people after this webinar. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram, use the hashtag TubaFest, and we will announce the winners today. Our other great sponsors, Apple, Windows, and Android, for their daring contribution to the field of technology. And we also have to thank the Embassy of Canada for their contribution to the refugee program with Jamaican males. Anyways, last but definitely not least, we have to thank Flow for their overpriced and inconsistent Wi-Fi services. Our panelists here, and they're brimming with knowledge for you, our future influencers. We're gonna first talk with both internet and YouTube personalities Dayna Samantha and Khalia Talks. Image consultant Kevaun Merchant will join us right after, followed by media manager Christopher Matthews and Amoy Cameron of LivTreats. At the end, we're going to take a few questions from you guys on Twitter. So don't forget to use the hashtag TubaFest, and our panel will answer your questions at the end in our Q&A section. We have an amazing show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Do not go anywhere.
Everyone.
Welcome again, everyone. I'm your host, YAKEEM, and on your devices, there are 2 beautiful and talented ladies. They're here tonight to give you all tips and tricks on how to master the art of being an influencer, how to get your target audience, and what it took and the cost. So yeah, we're gonna get very personal, so I'm ready to jump into it. Why did you guys want to become social media influencers?
Well, YAKEEM, I wanted to become an influencer because I was very active in the arts at school, and I realized that my peers look up to me, of course, in a good way. And I always liked the feeling of talking to others and asking questions. And I was wondering, what would I do with this? So I decided to create my own platform and step away from the traditional media. So YouTube gave me this platform, so I did it. I have my own show on YouTube.
Right.
Well, for me, it was a little different. I've always wanted to be an influencer, always loved makeup and looking pretty. I was that girly girl. So, and I also had issues with expressing myself. So makeup and art was always there as like an escapism for me to express myself and my femininity.
Right. So wait, let me ask a question. Is it a case where you're a makeup artist and not an influencer? And to both of you, Could you describe who an influencer is?
Well, technically, I'm both. I'm building a brand as well as I'm creating content. So I think anybody can be an influencer. There's always an audience for anything, whether your whole career is reviewing vegetables, traveling the world, as long as there's something for you to do online and you stick to it for the right reasons, you can be an influencer.
Right.
I must agree with Dayna, but I must also add that an influencer must have credibility and stamina. The way how Dayna described it just now, she makes it look easy. I'm not saying that, hey, it's the hardest task in the world, but what I am saying is that there must be some sort of creativity and a natural willing to be in the public eye 24/7, which, to be honest, can get tiring. And it takes a toll on you sometimes when you have all these goals and aspirations and you're just not hitting them just right or how you want it to. And that's where the stamina comes in. No matter what, you have to push through. You might have an idea for a video and think that, hey, I'm about to get 1,000 or 100,000 likes. And you check and you've only gotten 150 likes. Then you're wondering, where did I go wrong? What am I not doing right?
Right.
And that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's true. And to touch on the topic of being in the public eye, you have to remember that once you put yourself out there, you're sacrificing your privacy, your friends' privacy,
Yes.
family's privacy as well. And you have to be very careful once you step in the world of an influencer, because humans are naturally curious. So once you're out there, they're going to dig up your past, your mistakes, and even your embarrassing photographs.
That's true.
Right. So wait, what about the reality of an audience? How do you guys wheel in an audience? Well, how do you guys even target them?
Okay, well, YAKEEM, there is no wrong or right way to do it. To be honest, for example, I know what I wanted my interviews to be like and my discussions to be about. So what I did was I inserted myself in it to make it interesting. And I also want it to be about current affairs. So it's not like on the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I am only targeting an audience that's between the ages of 21 to 25. Then that would mean that I'm excluding teens who one day I may just be like, hey, I want to have a round table conversation with them about teenage pregnancy. So it's like that.
Mine is different. I do makeup, I do product reviews, I do vlogs. So makeup alone would exclude a lot of male audience. Not saying that I don't have any, but the female to male ratio is shocking. And in fact, I probably do have a younger audience between the ages of 13 to 25 because they will be the ones that are more interested in my content.
Okay, but how do you guys keep this audience coming back?
Well, for me, it's relatability, as I said before. They want to see themselves reflected in my content. So once I do not lose that relatability as your average queen who likes to find out things in life, then they'll always come.
I would say being ahead of the game, thinking outside of the box. Content will always play a key role in my audience coming back. I want to have the conversations that TVJ or CVM or even your local media houses may not hear. YouTube gives me that platform.
Right.
So my viewers or my audience, they want reality. They want it as real and, raw, as some people would say.
Yeah, but I'm glad you brought that up actually, because the topic of local content, because at some point, I know that language must have been an issue for both of you guys, because if you're talking in native language, Patois, of course, then you eliminate a whole demography of people all over the world. As you know, Patois isn't widely spoken. So where do you guys stand with that? Like choosing which language to deliver the content that you're producing in?
Well, for me, English was the only option. So I want to broaden my horizons. We're talking about collaborations and product deals. So using Patois would really be the purpose of it. So I'm not saying that I would not use it in my videos, of course, when I'm not paying attention or when I get more comfortable. But for the major parts of my content, I use English.
And it's the same for me, to be honest. Around 95% of my content is English. However, I do go back to my roots. And every now and then, I may use some proverbs because because it makes me different from the rest and it shows my versatility. And I'm not afraid to be unconventional. I'm not afraid to put in the patois.
So Dayna, as we all know, like we don't really have many beauty stores in Jamaica. So there are no Sephora's or Ulta Beauty, and we don't have like certain pharmacies like CVS and Dwayne Reed here in Jamaica. So how do you guys get access to makeup that the wider public would like to see reviewed?
Well, for me, it's online shopping, and I know for younger YouTubers,
Okay, right.
they don't have funds to get those products like the Anastasia's in Beverly Hills and the Fenty Beauty. So I started out with reviewing drugstore brands, and I still do to this day. So what you have to do is just use what you have and be creative with it.
Okay, sounds fair enough. But Khalia, tell me something. You told our producers that you're also a mom and you have a beautiful baby girl. How do you juggle being a mother plus your online career as an influencer?
YAKEEM, you've caught me by surprise with that one, but that's a great question. I feel the need to add also that I am pursuing a degree right now. I also have a full-time job. So at times, yes, at times I, get up in the middle of the night and I do ask myself, which is more important right now? Can I shoot that video tomorrow? Or is it that I'm going to work tomorrow? Or is it that my child is more important? Naturally, I am going to choose my child, but I've learned how to balance and distribute my energy equally.
Oh, nice. Pretty much. That's pretty much like very mind-blowing, actually. I don't think I could possibly do anything along those lines, but I'm sure you've more than likely given inspiration to somebody who's watching at home right now.
I'm glad to.
And also to tell them that no, it's a time to do it. No, it's a time to actually start your own online career. No matter the circumstances, you can legit get into it. Now, I want to be a bit more personal with you ladies, and I hope you don't mind. But what's the cost to actually start your career as an influencer? Do you have any tips for the upcoming ones?
Of course, we do. And again, this question is very difficult, given the context and the scope of the different influencers. For me, I had to invest in a mic, which costs around $80 on Amazon, of course. And I had to invest in a camera. Luckily, though, that was gifted to me by a friend on my birthday. So maybe if you want to start a podcast or a platform where you're going to have discussions, you'd want to invest or look for an entry-level DSLR camera at your local tech stores or online like Amazon, eBay, and a good microphone. Video is secondary to audio. In my book, of course.
All right. So for me, it was different. Other than the cost of makeup, I actually spent $0 on equipment. I use my phone. So once you have a good phone that has good video quality and good audio, then you'll be fine. I just video on my phone and then send it to my computer. And once I'm done editing, it's straight to YouTube.
Oh, okay. That's so true, Dayna. You just have to find what works for you. And at the end of the day, just make sure that the video is great and your sound is audible and you have engaging content.
Right, well, you've heard it all, guys. Let your target audience find you and give them relatable and fresh content. You have no excuses to not want to start your online career right now. And for some, you may need an initial investment to kickstart the process, but for the majority, you pretty much already have a production team right in your hand. You can use your phone. Now we're going to invite to the panel the man of the hour, style icon, Kevaun Merchant. Welcome, Kevaun. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So for those who don't know, Kevaun is a stylist and an image consultant. He's the talented man behind some of the favorite looks that you see on the influencers, such as those on our lovely panel, Khalia and Dayna. But tell me, Kevaun, what made you get into fashion initially?
Most definitely, I'd like to say the fact that clothes gives you confidence. You know, when you dress up or you dress somebody else up, you can feel how great they feel having been put in something that they feel comfortable and beautiful in. In regard to influencers, it's the same thing. Having them feel confident on their Instagram and YouTube or whatever platform they're using, and also having an aesthetic and a layout for them as a brand.
Oh, okay. But when you say having a layout for influencers as a brand, what exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, so in fashion, you have different genres,
Right.
just as music. So, for example, Dayna Samantha here, who I've worked with for quite a few projects, her layout would be a mix between street style and casual chic. She's very feminine, and it's sort of the same for Khalia. She's very feminine, but at the same time, she's very edgy. And I think that's because it's a type of content that they both produce. Dayna is more bubbly and very intimate with her audience, as opposed to Khalia, who is more leaning towards the professional side with her interviews and all.
Okay, so let me get this straight. What you're trying to say then is that influencers, are supposed to dress according to the content that they produce?
Well, yes, of course. You have to remember that there are imaged certain kinds of content. Be like a member of a church leading praise and worship in a very lewd outfit. It just wouldn't work. You understand?
Well, you have a point there, but what about your average day person who may or may not have the budget to, buy clothing, or a lot of clothing for that matter, to help with branding themselves?
Well, thank God for the internet, because there are resources available where you can get your everyday tips and tricks on how to look fashionable on a budget. For example, make sure you follow InStyle, GQ, Glamour, keep up with these magazines, and Elle to see the latest trends. And you can also look towards television. I'm sure a lot of us have watched Euphoria and Pose, and you see how they utilize fashion and clothes as a plotting device.
Right.
Now, when you've gathered all these inspirations and you've narrowed down the theory of image and how people will perceive you based on what you wear, that is when you start to actually buy clothes. You don't have to buy expensive clothes to look expensive. A regular top or shirt with a denim and a pair of kicks or heels can go a long way.
So tell me something. Had you been the one styling me today for this job, what would you have suggested I wear?
I would throw your entire closet out.
What?
I'm joking. Okay. So first you have to know the person's personality, and you have to figure out the image that they want to project to the world. So based on the interactions that we've had over the past weeks in preparation for this, I'd say you're a pretty simple guy. So I wouldn't put you in something that would take you out of your comfort zone. So maybe a simple blazer with a plain dress shirt underneath. And prints are in right now. So if you're feeling bold enough, then a printed blazer with a well-fitted pants would do just fine.
That sounds like
a personal tip, right? A personal tip, which I don't think people talk about a lot, which will bring your outfit out from 0 to 100, is to accessorize. Watches, necklaces, earrings, just do it. And make sure you look at websites like ASOS first before you buy from other more expensive websites.
Right.
An industry secret, which I know I will come under fire for, is that these clothes are manufactured by the same places, most times from the same material, and one sell it more expensive than the rest. And if you don't have access to buy clothes online and you have a small following of maybe 5K, do not be afraid to use that to your advantage. DM these people, email them, call them, reach out to them or whatever. But contact these people and these companies and local designers who sell and design clothes on Instagram or wherever, and tell them, hey, my name is so-and-so. I am an aspiring influencer. I would like to collaborate with you. If your target audience aligns with their target audience, then go ahead, they will consider you. Basically, that means they would send you clothes or a t-shirt or something, and you would promote it to your audience. In a sense, you would be a brand ambassador for their brand. So I would suggest you start compiling a list of potential brands who you want to work with and work your way up to the ladder.
Well, that's a lot of information. And I think in such little time, you've given us a lot of information that we can utilize and apply to ourselves in order for us to become influencers. But before we move on to our other panelists, tell me, how do the clothes you wear and the image you project affect or influence your brand?
Oh, that's easy. And I can go back to the church analogy that I used earlier. Whatever you wear, even the colors that you wear, will send consumers a particular message without you even realizing it. So, for example, an organization may be keeping a gospel tour across the Caribbean, and they need an influencer and someone with a decent following to host it, right? If you're an influencer like Rebel or TC or any of these local dancehall influencers that we know, you may not get this job. Not because you can't do the job, but because of the image of your brand and the type of content that you produce. Businesses and organizations want people who will shove them towards their specific goal and purpose. In essence, you as an influencer must be very careful of how you brand yourself. You can't be family friendly and at the same time be provocative. It really doesn't work. You have to choose what you want people to think of you or find yourself somewhere in the middle.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that insight, Kevaun.
No problem. And hey, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Merchie, 2eyes_DON.
I'm sure editor DELANO is doing his job. It's probably somewhere on the screen right now. But anyways, I'm sure you, our future influencers, are enjoying this insightful webinar. But before I bring in our next guest, I want to remind you all to subscribe to the page, like and comment on this video. And don't forget to send us your questions on Twitter using the hashtag TubaFest, don't forget, for our panelists to answer at the end of the discussion. So no more waiting. The woman I'm about to introduce to you is an entrepreneur. She's a boss lady and she's the owner of LivTreatsJa. And quite frankly, she's the sweetest woman in Jamaica who also makes the sweetest treats. So ladies and gentlemen, Amoy Cameron.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure having you here, Amoy, but let's dive right into it. What is the best part about being an entrepreneur?
Well, the best part to me is having the freedom, and I'm pretty sure both Dayna and Khalia can relate. I mean, the freedom to choose your own work hours, the freedom to, expand or change is really amazing, and especially since it's a small business, you get to be hands-on during the whole production process, and really that is amazing.
Right. But before we move on, earlier Kevaun mentioned collaboration with influencers being brand ambassadors. Do you utilize these strategies in your business?
Of course I do. I mean, in the past year, I've had a few influencers on short-term agreements to promote and associate themselves with my brand. And I mean, I must say it went really well. I saw an overall growth in my followers and sales, because I think it's a consumer thing where people love to see someone famous or someone with a certain level of credibility associated with a brand. I mean, it's a great marketing tool as long as you know how to use it well.
So when you say use it well, what exactly do you mean? Could you expound on that?
All right. So basically what I mean is it's one thing to have an influencer, right? But it's a whole other thing to have an influencer being your brand ambassador, right? So think of it this way. If you have an influencer associated with your brand and then all of a sudden, boom, this person is under the microscope for some sexual allegation assault, right? So what happened is that your brand also suffers because in collaboration, it's a chain reaction. So as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you have to be very careful as to who you associate with your brand. So you have to put in the hard work and make sure this person is right for you, and it always brings out your brand in the best light possible.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Which makes sense. And that actually goes back to what Dayna and Khalia were saying earlier about you being an influencer and having like a life that's in the public eye.
That's exactly it. And you just really don't want that for yourself. So as a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and who will eventually be partnering with all you lovely future influencers, just take this time to review that problematic tweet, and just go through and delete those old tweets that you posted when you were young and immature, because as we all know, the media is completely unforgiving, and you really don't want to ruin your chance of having a career of being an influencer before it actually happens. You know what I'm saying?
But Amoy, tell me something. Dayna and Khalia are two completely different brands, so that means they would have two completely different audiences. Is there a space in the entrepreneurial world where both of them can be brand ambassadors for LivTreats?
Most definitely. Given my brand, is pastry, cookies, cupcakes, all of that, it doesn't really have a specific demographic. So we target everyone. So at any given time, I can use either influencer as a marketing tool for a new product or a new promotion. I mean, let's say for my past Valentine's Day sale, cookie bouquets, all of that, I would have to then select an influencer that has a active, young, or even middle-aged audience that is willing to spend on their significant other. You know what I'm saying? So you can use various influencers for traditional marketing, but you have to be very specific with inbound marketing and which type of media you're gonna explore.
Right.
You understand?
Right, I get it. So what about me?
Right.
What about me? Would you hire me as a brand ambassador?
I mean, I would. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you said that, because it actually leads me to the next question. How much do businesses pay influencers for their service?
Oh, that's a tough question, but it's an actually really great question. Because here's the thing, when you're looking for a brand ambassador or an influencer to promote, you're looking for one thing and one thing only. How much traffic can they bring to your page? How can they improve your sales? So, you have to consider if they have a very active audience, how much followers, subscribers, how much of a following they have really and truly. And then after that, you have to sit with the influencer or the future ambassador and have a negotiation, because in this business, there's no set price, right? So you guys have to work it out together. But I can say from personal experience is that I normally pay per individual post, right? And this means you're getting paid every time you post something related to my brand. But to really answer your question, it can range from anywhere from 25 to 50 US dollars for an influencer who has, let's say, under 10K followers. You get what I'm saying? Anything over 50 or 100,000 followers. I mean, you can go up to 150 US dollars to even 500 or 1,000. I mean, really and truly, if you look at it, it all depends on your brand, your following, what you're trying to achieve, and most importantly, how much money do you have to spare at this given time? You know what I'm saying?
Whoa. So basically what you're telling me is that I should quit my job right here, right now, make an Instagram page and start targeting audiences and releasing content?
100%. I mean, if you're very smart about your brand and you put in the work, you can make a lot of money. You can be very successful as an influencer. I mean, look at the success of Tananya. She partnered with Pepsi Jamaica the other day, and since then she has blown up. And I mean, I'm pretty sure she's satisfied with her check.
Right. I mean, she has been very successful with this influencer thing. But thank you so much for doing this with us. I know you business people are always on the run, very busy. But don't go anywhere just yet. We may need you. Well, we're not me. We need you for the Q&A section.
All right, no problem. I'll be here.
Okay, great. So our next speaker will not only take you behind the scenes of this whole media industry, but he will bridge the gap between you as an influencer and the team who you'd have behind you. Now, he's also the manager for Cuz, the Jamaican comedian who's pretty much taken Jamaica by storm. His name is Christopher Matthews. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Well, most of that should actually go to TREY Rooms. He's the one behind scouting all the speakers for today. Anyway, let's get right into it and just ask the question that's on the minds of everyone. As an influencer, do you need a manager to make it big?
Yes and no. And I can give you 100 reasons as to why, but I'll stick to the most important one. When you're just starting out as an influencer, you can handle answering every email, every text, every comment. But as your audience widens and so does your platform, that can get tricky because no longer just signatures and that on a contract. It gets more down to details more than that because you have fine prints and other stuff. So you should have somebody that is firm alongside you and have your best interest at heart so they can get you good deals,
Right, yeah. But earlier Amoy mentioned that there are specific influencers for specific marketing tools. Are there any special managers for the various influencers that exist today?
Most definitely, but at the same time, every manager has a different strength. For me personally, for example, you could hire me and I could excel in any field and I'll still be able to do my job very well.
Oh, really? Well, that sounds great, but I'm sure everybody watching at home right now is just like bursting with excitement with the idea of having a manager. But where do influencers, artists, and other entrepreneurs even begin the process of looking for a manager?
Well, there are agencies which are available, but networking and word of mouth is key. Go out, go to events, get emails, get numbers, get information, go to webinars like this. Your manager doesn't have to come from an agency. Your manager can be somebody close that has your best interest at heart, as long as they have sense and a basic understanding of contractual agreements. So from there, your manager will do more for you that you can do for yourself. While you're asleep, your manager is the person working behind the scenes. So organizes the collaborations, potential customers. They bring those persons to your brands, plannings and bookings. Those are the works of your manager. So if you have somebody that is good at that, you will go places.
Yeah, but for example, to plan this event in particular, everyone had to come together as a team. Now, describe for me what a team for a huge influencer would be like.
A team for an influencer can range from about 3 to 15 people, depending on your budget, your following, and the content you produce. So, for example, if you're a YouTuber and you manage a steady income and you have a steady following, a steady base, a steady platform, you can have about, let's say, a cameraman, a manager, an assistant, sound and equipment manager, a stylist, and a makeup artist. That's all really. And oftentimes you find one person doing more than one job.
So that sounds like a lot of money though, Chris. That really, really expensive actually. But how much would we be looking at here? How much do managers even get paid?
Well, every manager is different and everybody's experience will also be different. So for managers who work with an agency, they don't really share a personal relationship with their client. So their job and they just go. So for me, I am a freelance manager. I get paid when my client gets paid. So the managers at the agency, those are the ones that get a steady paycheck as opposed to me, as mentioned before. So when I book gigs, shows, hostings such as this, I draft up emails, get the contracts ready, make the calls, and at the end of the day, I collect my 15%.
Since you're a man who's been in media for a while, you have first-hand experience, I suppose you realize or you've noticed how many people are becoming influencers in this day and age. So how do you suggest an influencer survive in this oversaturated 21st century media market?
It's pretty simple. It's really easy. Just be original. Just be you. I cannot stress this enough, really. It will make your job easier for you to be original, be yourself, because you don't have to pretend. You don't have to be anything you're not. So be you and the audience will come. Ask yourself, what do I have to bring to this media landscape? If you can find even one reason, then you deserve a seat at the table.
Right, and I suppose Dayna and Khalia asked themselves that question a long time ago, and they must have found a few good reasons, right?
Yes, of course. I found several.
Don't get me started, YAKEEM. It's the same for me.
Not that I'm taking your job here, YAKEEM, but I'm sure both Dayna and Khalia are in that transition stage of their influencing career, where they are sealing the deal on a following. And I want to ask both of them, if and when they will put a price on themselves as a brand.
Good question.
Well, I haven't as yet, Christopher, but I have been considering it. Raising the prices on brand ambassador services and promotions and stuff.
And for me, yes, I have been giving it some thought. However, I usually think if it's too early, if it will become more pretentious.
Well, I asked because with almost all of my friends who are influencers, and even with my client, they all start from the ground with a specific price. And when they finally reach a certain stage in their careers, they are reluctant to step up. Also, I want to urge both of you to give it some serious thought, because oftentimes creatives undervalue themselves for the sake of not looking pricey. But what I hope we all take away from this is that once your work is done and you send your audience to that specific product or service or business, and the business makes a good amount of money, all of that was because of you, influencer. So it's not about feeling pretentious. It's all about recognizing your worth and the power you have in the media landscape and using that to your full advantage.
Right. Very well said, Christopher. And thank you so much for coming here today. As I told Ms. Cameron earlier, don't go anywhere just yet. We have a very exciting Q&A section coming up. And it's not too late to clock in those questions, guys. Just go to Twitter and ask your question using the hashtag TubaFest, and our panel will be there to answer it. Also, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, maybe tell another friend, because we will be back here again next year and the year after that, and the year after that. So thank you guys for being here today with us. We will be going into our Q&A session right now. Stay tuned. I'm sure you're all super tired of seeing my face right now, but don't worry. This section is going to be pretty short and to the point. If your question wasn't answered here, or influencers will actually be on the lookout throughout today and maybe tomorrow on Twitter, not maybe, they will be. So don't worry, they will be there to answer them. So our first question comes from @LivTreatsJa on Twitter, and he asks Amoy. He says, I'm a weed distributor and my mother is a good baker. Where do I even start with cookies, cakes, or anything in the pastry making business while I'm utilizing weed?
Well, at LivTreatsJa, first thing you must do is make sure whatever you're doing is legal. And then after that, what you do is think of what you want to distribute, who is your audience, how much money you're going to need, and all of that. Also think of branding and your inventory. Very important step. And just roll those terminologies around in your head, do some research, and you're ready to launch. But beware, becoming an entrepreneur is no easy business. But if your heart is in it, then you can do it.
Right. Well, you heard it, Jamar, and thank you for that response, Amoy. Our next question comes from @SharifaBuffday, and her question is targeted at Christopher. She asks, can an influencer have a huge following but not have a manager?
Yeah, but you have to understand that it will come at a cost to you and your time. You see, your audience evolves, your content evolves with it. So, for example, you're an influencer and you want to keep a show or a webinar similar to this to give tutorials on how to launch a successful influencer career. While you can do all the work, the smartest thing to do would be to make it a collaborative thing. So you need your designers and publicists, and if it's live, then you'll need a whole team for camera and sound equipment. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have one, but it would be smart to have one.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Our next question is from @FamilyRanchMelissa on Twitter, and she asks, Khalia, how do you personally get people to have discussions and interviews with you on your YouTube channel?
Great question, Melissa. For discussions, it's always with my friends. I have a group of friends with different backgrounds, so it gives me different perspectives on each topic. Like, for example, my video that I did, Why Do Men Cheat? I just called him up and said, well, hey, I'm going to do a video and I think your insight would be good. And it's a done deal. And for interviews now, that is where it gets, a little, not tricky, but I send emails and I make phone calls. And the thing with the interviews is you have to do your research. You have to find credible and interesting people. So you call them up and you tell them, hey, I have a video, I have an idea for an interview, and I think that your insight would be good. And you plan a date. You let them know where you're going to shoot it. You let them know if it is that you need a specific type of dress code, and you're good to go.
Okay, nice. Our next question is from @Shelto. He or she asks Dayna, she says, my daughter loves your videos and she wants to become a beauty influencer just like you. How do I go about supporting her? What do I even buy?
All right. First of all, I'd say that's really cute of you being so supportive of your daughter. However, on top of being supportive economically, please ensure that you're being supportive emotionally. I would figure that she's young, so not a lot of people would get her, and the reason why she wants to be an influencer and why she's not going for the traditional jobs in Jamaican society. So I'm not saying that it's going to be an easy road. There's going to be doubts on to see if media is her field for her or not, but just being an all-round supportive parent will be very helpful for her.
Right. And thank you for that information, Dayna. Again, if your question wasn't answered here, our influencers will be scouting the hashtag TubaFest on Twitter, and they'll be answering as much as they possibly can. So just check your notifications often. Your favorite influencer just might be there. Now for our final question before we wrap this up. It actually comes from @Dr. Henderson. She asks, I'm a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, and in my class where we're teaching media theories, since image consultant Kevaun spoke about image and branding so much, and Amoy spoke about utilizing influencers for traditional marketing, I want to know if there are any media theories which can be applied to the TubaFest webinar, or if you guys have even utilized any.
Well, I mean, Kevaun, do you want to go first?
Okay, yeah, sure, fine, I'll go. And I suppose you'll be able to add to it later on. So there are so many media theories which can be applied to TubaFest webinar. We can justify the media dependency theory, agenda setting theory, and so many other theories. But I think the one which really applies to TubaFest the most would be Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovation theory. Basically, this theory speaks of new ideas and technologies and how people adapt to them. So using a bell curve, you have 5 different categories. You have the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. So TubaFest would basically be the innovators. We have a target audience, we have a goal, and essentially using the diffusion of innovation in theory, we can assess how many people we will be able to influence and introduce to our idea. Now, the early adopters basically endorse the idea of TubaFest. These people are the ones who would first test all these tips and tricks we presented earlier, and these people would actually bridge the gap between the trendsetters and the late majority. But I want you to keep in mind that as opposed to the late majority, the early adopters have to have a reason, or has to have a reason as to why our tips and tricks on becoming an influencer is beneficial to them. And I think Amoy can continue to explain from here because she looks a little bit eager to contribute.
Yeah, just to add to what you say, the late majority are sort of resistant when it comes on to adapting new ideas because they like an innovation to be widely used and tested before they even try it. So basically, if 100 people applied all the tips our panelists gave and the late majority sees that it is successful, they will eventually adapt and apply these tips to their own career as an influencer. Now when it comes on to the laggards, I mean, they're the last to adapt and apply new ideas because they are very hard to reach. And this may even be because of a lack of technological resources like Wi-Fi or a smartphone or even a laptop. And no matter how hard the TubaFest team may push and promote and try to reach a wide audience, they may just never reach some people who will even watch this video and hear of these tips and tricks on having an influencer career. Because the laggards often have very minimal exposure to media. I mean, in some cases, laggards only adapt to new ideas when they become extremely mainstream. And in some cases, the laggards don't even adapt at all. So I mean, there you have it.
Wow, thank you so much for that information, Amoy and Kevaun. And I hope that answers the question, Dr. Henderson. Well, guys, we have come to the end of our webinar, and I want to give a huge thanks to our panelists, our TubaFest team, and to each and every one of you guys watching from home. We could not have done this without you. I'm going to let our panelists go, and I will see you guys on the other side of this video. Goodbye, everyone. Deuces. So we've come to the end of our first annual TubaFest webinar, and I feel like a proud father seeing his child graduate. If you've made it thus far, thank you so much for staying with us. I want to remind you all that we have a little giveaway going on. So if you want a planner from us, or sponsors actually, to plan your school or influencer career, just go over to our Instagram profile and use a hashtag TubaFest at the end of today. You'll find out who our lucky 5 winners are. If you think that was just it, you're very wrong. Because we're going to choose 10 additional lucky persons and ship them a TubaFest mystery box. Now, I'm not supposed to tell you what's in these mystery boxes. However, just know that whatever is in them will pretty much give you a jump start to your influencer career. All you have to do is comment below this video and you may just get a TubaFest mystery box at your doorsteps. Also, use a hashtag TubaFest mystery box because we're going to be choosing one lucky winner from Twitter as well. Again, I want to thank our TubaFest team, especially RHOOMES, our publicist, DELANO, FRANKSON, our creative director of video and sound guy, and to our panelists. Thank you all so very much. This looks like it's it. I'm YAKEEM, your TubaFest host, and I'm signing off.